Yemen 2022. A Saudi airbase tracks an incoming Houthi drone. Modern radar picks it up instantly. The base has Patriot missiles worth millions sitting ready. But the commander orders something else. Roll out the S60. A gun designed in 1947 roars to life. 4 seconds later, the drone disintegrates at 8,000 feet. Total cost of interception, $200 in ammunition. This Soviet cannon was built to fight propeller bombers over Korea. It should be in a museum. Instead, it's racking up drone kills across 3 continents like it's still the Cold War. Here's why a weapon older than your parents is outperforming systems that cost 1,000 times more. Soviet air defense had a massive gap. Their heavy 85mm and 100mm guns could reach high-altitude bombers. Their light 37mm guns shredded low-flying attackers. But there was a kill zone between 3,000 and 15,000 feet where nothing worked. American B-26 Marauders and British Canberra bombers owned that altitude. They'd cruise right through it, dropping bombs while Soviet gunners watched helplessly. The Soviet answer? The S60, not bigger, not smaller. Perfectly sized at 57mm to own that middle altitude bracket. Production started in 1950 at artillery plant number 235 in Kaliningrad. By 1955, over 10,000 units were rolling off assembly lines across the USSR. And here's what makes this insane. The design was so simple, so reliable, that countries are still manufacturing ammunition for it today. The S60 looks brutal because it is. 4 wheels, a central gun mount, and a crew of 7. No computer, no radar on the gun itself. Just mechanical fire control and human skill. But the engineering is sneaky smart. First, the caliber. 57mm sits in a sweet spot. Big enough to reach 20,000 feet, small enough to maintain a 105 round per minute fire rate. That's nearly 2 shells per second when the crew is dialed in. The barrel? 4.7 meters long. That's 73 calibers, meaning exceptional muzzle velocity. We're talking 1,000 meters per second. A shell leaves the barrel and reaches a target 2 miles away in under 4 seconds. Weight? 4.5 tons in firing position. Light enough that a ZIL 157 truck can tow it anywhere. Heavy enough to stay stable during sustained fire. Here's the kicker. The S60 uses a vertical sliding breech block. This thing is a mechanical monster. As the barrel recoils, the breech opens, ejects the spent casing, chambers a new round, and closes automatically. The gunner just keeps the trigger down. Reliability? Soviet engineers tested it in Siberian winter at -40 degrees and Kazakh summer at +50. It fired without jamming. Now let's talk about what this thing actually shoots, because the ammo tells you everything about why it still works. Standard loadout, fragmentation rounds. The OR-281U projectile weighs 2.8 kilograms and contains 68 grams of AIX-2 explosive. When it detonates, it creates a lethal fragment radius of 7 meters. Against a drone? Overkill. You don't need a direct hit. Get within 20 feet and the shrapnel does the job. Armor-piercing rounds also exist. The BR-281 can punch through 106 millimeters of steel at 500 meters. This matters because the S60 moonlights as a ground support weapon. Iraq used them against Iranian armor in the 1980s. Syrian rebels mounted them on pickup trucks in 2014. Here's what's wild. A single S60 shell cost roughly $50 in current production. Compare that to a $150,000 Stinger missile or a $3 million Patriot interceptor. The math gets stupid fast when you're shooting at $20,000 drones, but the real secret is the feed system. Four-round clips. That's the genius nobody talks about. The loader doesn't handle individual shells. He slams in clips of 4 rounds each. This keeps the firing cycle smooth. A well-trained crew can maintain 70 rounds per minute in sustained combat. Not the theoretical 105, but enough to create a wall of steel in the sky. The gun traverses 360 degrees, elevation from -4 to +87 degrees. That means it can engage targets from ground level to almost directly overhead. Aiming? This is where it gets old school. The SON-9 fire control radar sits 30 meters away, tracking the target. It feeds data to a PUAZO director, which calculates lead time, altitude, and shell trajectory. The director then shouts corrections to the crew. No digital link, no computer, just a guy with a stopwatch and really good math skills yelling numbers. But here's what makes this insane. When the radar breaks, and it does break, crews can operate in manual mode. They use a ZAP 57 optical sight and their own judgment. Vietnam War records show manual crews scoring kills on F-4 Phantoms. Not often, but it happened. Korea, 1951. The S-60's combat debut. Soviet documents, declassified in 2003, claim 14 confirmed aircraft kills in the first 6 months. American records dispute this, but they do confirm losing B-26s to unknown AAA in the S-60's operational area. The guns operated in batteries of 6, positioned around key bridges and supply depots near the Yalu River. Chinese crews, trained by Soviet advisors, learned to fire in coordinated barrages. The strategy wasn't precision, it was saturation. Fill a box of sky with 57mm shells and wait for something to fly through it. Vietnam changed everything. North Vietnam received over 2,000 S-60 guns between 1965 and 1972. They created interlocking fire zones that forced American pilots above 15,000 feet into SAM range or below 3,000 feet into small arms range. Colonel Jack Broughton, F-105 pilot, wrote in his memoir, "The 57mm was the nightmare between the flak and the missiles. You couldn't see it coming like the bigger stuff, but it had the reach to tag you anywhere below Angels 12. April 1967, Hanoi. An F-4C Phantom piloted by Major Leo Thorsness dove through cloud cover at 8,000 feet during a Wild Weasel mission. 3 S-60 batteries opened up simultaneously. The 4th burst caught the left wing. Thorsness managed to nurse the crippled jet back across the border into Thailand. His after-action report noted, "They put up a curtain of fire you couldn't believe, like flying through a steel rainstorm." The North Vietnamese developed a brutal tactic. Position S-60S near known SAM sites. American pilots hunting missiles would drop to medium altitude to avoid SAM engagement envelopes, right into S-60 range. The guns claimed at least 31 confirmed kills this way between 1966 and 1968. Middle East wars, a target-rich environment, Egyptian S-60s shot down Israeli aircraft during the War of Attrition. On July 30, 1970, 4 Israeli F-4 Phantoms attacked Egyptian positions along the Suez Canal. S-60 batteries positioned in concealed revetments opened fire. 1 Phantom took hits and went down. The pilot, Captain Iftach Spector, later became commander of the Israeli Air Force. He survived the shootdown but spent months recovering from injuries. Syrian batteries scored kills in 1973. During the Yom Kippur War, Syrian S-60 crews defending Damascus claimed 7 Israeli aircraft. Israeli sources confirm 4 losses to AAA in that sector, though they don't specify caliber. Iranian crews used them throughout the Iran-Iraq War. Iranian gun positions around Avaz and Abadan fired thousands of rounds at Iraqi Su-22 and MiG-23 aircraft between 1980 and 1988. Exact kill numbers remain classified, but both sides acknowledge the S-60 as a persistent threat to low-altitude attack runs. But the 1991 Gulf War exposed the weakness. Coalition aircraft operated above 20,000 feet with precision weapons. The S60 couldn't touch them. Iraqi crews fired thousands of rounds with 0 confirmed kills. One battery outside Basra expended 3,400 rounds in 3 days of combat. Not a single hit. The weapon was obsolete, except it wasn't. Fast forward to 2023. Drones have changed warfare. Not the predators and reapers, they fly too high. We're talking about the cheap stuff, quadcopters, fixed-wing reconnaissance drones, loitering munitions. These things operate between 1,000 and 10,000 feet, right in the S60's sweet spot. Multiple conflicts show the pattern. The Saudis dusted off their S60s to fight Houthi drones over Yemen. Reports from 2022 indicate at least a dozen interceptions. One engagement near Abha Airport in March 2022 saw an S60 crew destroy 3 Qasef 2K drones in a single afternoon. Total ammunition expended, 47 rounds. Total cost, less than the fuel burned by a single F-15 sortie. Syrian government forces have used them against rebel drones since 2019. Open-source video from Idlib province shows S60S engaging commercial DJI Mavic quadcopters modified to drop grenades. The rebels called them flying IEDs. The S60 crews called them clay pigeons with propellers. Even some African conflicts show S60S being employed against commercial quadcopters modified for military use. Libyan National Army forces defending Sirte in 2020 used them against Turkish-supplied Bayraktar TB2 drones. The TB2s flew higher than the S60's effective range, but smaller reconnaissance drones operating as spotters stayed low. Those got shredded. Why does a 1947 design work against 2024 technology? 3 reasons. 1. Drones are slow. A cruise missile screams in at Mach 0.8. An Orlan 10 putters along at 90 miles per hour. That's easier to track than a 1960s fighter jet. 2. Drones are fragile. No armor, no countermeasures. A single fragment can sever a control surface or kill the engine. 3. Economics. Firing $50 shells at $20,000 drones makes sense. Firing $150,000 missiles at them does not. Ask yourself, would you rather have one modern SAM system or 50 S60S covering an entire front line? Production numbers tell the story. The Soviet Union manufactured over 10,000 units. They exported thousands more to 67 countries. China copied it as the Type 59. Poland built their own as the AU-1. These guns are everywhere because the Soviets gave them away. Military aid packages in the 1960s and 70s included S60s like party favors. Egypt got them. Syria got them. Vietnam, Cuba, Angola, Mozambique, you name it. The training requirement was minimal. A crew could be combat effective in 2 weeks. Compare that to 6 months for a modern SAM system. Maintenance? Laughably simple. The S60 has 987 parts. A Patriot launcher has over 10,000. You can field strip an S60 with basic tools. Spare parts are still manufactured in Russia, China, and Iran. This created a self-sustaining ecosystem. As long as someone makes 57mm ammunition, the S60 lives. The Soviet Union officially replaced the S60 with the ZSU-23-4 Shilka in 1965. Self-propelled, radar-guided, higher rate of fire. Better in every measurable way, except cost. A Shilka required trained mechanics, electronic technicians, and steady fuel supplies. An S60 needed 7 guys and a truck. The S60 stayed in frontline service until 1990 in Soviet forces. Reserve units kept them until 2000. And in client states, they never left. Russia's current doctrine doesn't include towed anti-aircraft guns. They've moved on to Panzer and Tor systems, but check the footage from current conflicts. Those S60S are still there, still firing, still scoring kills. The S60 57mm anti-aircraft gun is Cold War technology solving 21st century problems. It wasn't designed to fight drones, but the physics don't care about design intent. A gun that can throw 2.8 kilograms of explosive fragmentation to 20,000 feet at 1,000 meters per second will work against any slow-moving aerial target. Period. Modern militaries overlooked this because they focused on fast jets and cruise missiles. They built exquisite solutions for sophisticated threats. Then warfare shifted to cheap drones, and suddenly the old gun in the warehouse made sense again. Here's the irony. The S60 survived because it was too simple to break and too cheap to retire. Not because it was the best, because it was good enough. And in warfare, good enough usually wins. Want to see more Cold War weapons that refuse to die? Check out our video on the ZPU-4 heavy machine gun. 4 barrels, 1 trigger, and a reputation that terrifies helicopter pilots to this day. Links on screen now. What obsolete weapon do you think still has a place on modern battlefields? Drop your answer in the comments.